Singapore stood out from the other cities as a city-state. It is both a country and a city in a way that London and New York aren't. And I was wondering how that bears upon the way that you structure urban planning, and how it bears upon, do you treat cities like London and New York as autonomous self-entities that can be planned, or do you take references to the rest of the country?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, every city planner is so envious of your one level of government. No, I'm serious. I come from a federal country, very, very, very big country. So we have 3 levels of government: federal, provincial, and city. And on the waterfront that we've been doing, we have 3 levels of government own the waterfront corporation. That's the development corporation, so the equivalent of your URA or HDB. And the guy who runs it said to me the other day, I've had 4 prime ministers, 6 premiers, and 5 mayors, in the time that I've been doing, the last 12 years. And you can't get these guys to agree on the time of day. I mean, it drives you insane. And they all everybody is always having an election. So, these political considerations just drive in all the time. So the utter ease with which you can connect the brain, the wallet, and the arm is fantastic. And I think as well, you have not, obviously, therefore you say this is something that you could abuse by being, too quick and too brutal and too heavy and too hard-handed. And it doesn't seem to me that that's been the case, which is also, to a worrying degree, which is also good. What you are seeing is that the cities of the world are moving more like Singapore rather than the other way around. London essentially amalgamates 54 boroughs into the Greater London Authority and puts a mayor, it only did this a decade ago, a mayor in charge of it who is responsible for big. So he's responsible for big industry, big economic development, big infrastructure, big transportation. He does big airports, etc. You see Bloomberg in New York, who again I think has been the most extraordinary mayor, saying I'm going to drive the agenda as an economic development agenda. I want New York to. I mean, it's hilarious when you go to New York and London and you hear their senior officials worrying about whether or not they can keep being world class. And you see, what? London and New York are worried about being world class? They are. They are definitely, because they see the downsides. And so Manchester is the most fascinating place in London, because that's in England. That's a mid-sized city. It's only about 2.5 million metropolitan. And they've been by far and away the most successful British city outside of London, because they have created a very strong central directive administration. So the conclusion you come to is that this kind of soft dictatorship is a good thing for cities. And it has its downsides. But if you are in the top dozen or top 20, it is probably the system that you have to have, because I'll just finish with this, but when we started the waterfront in Toronto 12 years ago, we did an analysis of all the approvals we needed to get the project work, and we came to the conclusion we needed 347 environmental assessments, separate environmental assessments. That's what happens when you have that division of power. So I'm sure everybody here will find all kinds of problems with the system you've got and chafe against its unitariness and top-downness, but you should contemplate the alternative.